I'm Batman.
So you might be wondering, why am I sharing a Batman clip today? Well, it's going to be a top nugget, but on the lighter side a little bit. So I'm going in a slightly different direction today, but you're still going to be blessed. So stay tuned to listen to what I have to offer you today. It's really good stuff. So in 1989, when the movie came out with Michael Keaton, of course, I was one of the millions of people who went to see Batman on the big screen. And of course, you right away, you start when you're young. I was like 14, came out of there and like fantasizing about having all the money and the billions of dollars and the gadgets and the training and the car, right? The car was amazing in the first movie. So you obviously start thinking about, wouldn't it be great if I was Batman? Wouldn't it be great if I could say, I'm Batman? Now, let's face it, most of us will never be billionaires and will never have all the gadgets and the training and the car and all that. It's purely fantasy, and the proof is in the pudding. I think there's like something like 492 billionaires on the earth right now, and not one of those bozos decided to become Batman. I'm just being honest here. Okay, so it's not, even if you were to become a billionaire, chances are you wouldn't go through all the grueling training and all the discipline that it requires to become Batman. And neither would I. But maybe you won't become Batman. But if you are a believer, you've trusted in Jesus Christ, and you're a kingdom citizen, you can become something even better. You can become that man. So you'll be able to look at demons in the face and say, I'm that man. Now, what do I mean by that man? Well, I'm getting into this. I found a great nugget, and that's why I called it Top Nugget, because this is a really good nugget I'm sharing with you guys today. I found it in Psalm number 1. And the psalm begins like this. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked. That's the first verse of Psalm 1. Now, if you look at some commentaries, it's very interesting what you can find sometimes when you do some Bible research. The Joseph Benson commentary explains the first verse like this. So the first verse, he says, blessed is the man. The Hebrew words are very emphatical. Blessedness belongs to that man. Or, oh, the blessedness of that man. Now we're talking about that man. And who is that man? Well, he's the guy that's described all throughout that psalm. So I'm going to read the psalm for you guys. So we read verse 1. It says, blessed is the man, or you can understand it as that man, or that woman, if you're a lady, who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. In all he does, he prospers. And I like that verse. I actually use that verse as the introduction of my book, my new book. If you guys don't know that I wrote a book, 5 reasons God wants you to prosper. So that's my most recent book. And I use that verse and the image of the nice, beautiful tree, as you can see on the cover. See, I use the image of a nice, fruitful tree because I believe that that man gets access to that kind of blessing. So he is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers. The wicked are not so. So the jokers of this world, haha, pun intended. They are like chaff that the wind drives away. Now, chaff is when you pick up wheat. Chaff is the little shell in which the wheat, the part of the wheat that is edible, there's that little shell that goes on top. And when the wheat is basically treated to be ready for eating, the chaff flies away in the wind. So they are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. So we're going to unpack a little bit this psalm. So obviously I gave you verse 1, which is kind of like the punchline, right? The Batman, that man analogy I gave you in the beginning. But let's unpack a little bit more. So blessed is the man. Blessed is the man. The Hebrew word esher is here translated blessed, which has the idea of happiness or contentment. So happy is the man. Everybody wants happiness, right? So esher is a form of the Hebrew word ashar, which in its root means to be straight or to be right. So it talks about like both the blessedness and the integrity of that man. So blessed means supremely happy or fulfilled. In fact, the Hebrew word is actually a plural word, which denotes either a multiplicity of blessings or an intensification of blessings. Isn't that interesting? So we can all be that man. I'm that man. You can say, I'm that man. If you delight in the law of God and you do not sit at the seat of scoffers. We're going to get into that a little bit more. So if we avoid walking with the wicked. So number one, that's the first thing you need. There's two major things in the psalm. Number one, you need to avoid walking with the wicked. So in today's world, how does this translate? Well, walking with the wicked means being in association with the wicked or thinking like the wicked or walking with the mass, the way the mass is thinking. It was Mark Twain who once said, if you are part of the majority, it is now time to pause and reflect. It's time to pause and reflect. And oftentimes, and Jesus said it, narrow is the way that leads to salvation in life, and wide is the way that leads to perdition. And many walk in that wide way, and only few find the narrow way. So you need to avoid walking with the wicked. And of course, today, that may translate into a multitude of things, but we know that there's stuff that we don't want to allow in our lives, certain ways of thinking. See, walking with the wicked doesn't just mean my friends they're not saved and I go play golf with them and we have a beer afterwards. That's not necessarily just what it means. It's much wider than that, and it has to do with your frequent associations. And here's the thing with television. Ever since television was invented, and now all the media we have, multimedia we have in today's world, we let in so many things in our homes and in our thinking that we are, in fact, when we over listen to what Hollywood is dishing out, to what the news is dishing out, and I know I used Batman at the beginning, but it was to make a point. But the point is, if you really let that in, like in droves in your thinking and in your mind, and if you associate yourself with that constantly, you're going to be walking with the wicked. You're going to be thinking like them. You're going to be seeing the world through their lens as well. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, and that also includes what we listen to on television and everywhere else. So, but you don't want to be, here's the point I want to make too, you don't want to be one of those Christians who just avoids bad company, bad movies, bad things that will lead you down the path to sin. You don't want to be one of those Christians who just concentrates his whole life on avoiding sin. Avoiding sin is only part of the equation, but that's not what you want to do. What you don't want to run from something. You want to run to something. And when we just focus our whole Christian life on avoiding sin, we're just running from something. Now, what you want to do is to run to something. So what is that something you want to run towards? Well, let me just, these sheets are kind of sticky. So you want to, number 2, delight in the law of the Lord. Now, that's what you want. That's when you want to run to. You want to delight yourself in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. Now, some of you might say, but we're not under the law. We're under grace. So is that still relevant, to delight in the law of the Lord? Well, yes, it is. Actually, in the New Testament, Jesus reminds us of the importance of God's law. In Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 to 19, he says this: "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear." Until what? Heaven and earth disappear. Okay, I think so far so good. That hasn't happened. Okay, so here's what he says: "Until that happens, not the smallest letter, nor the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished." And now we understand what he came to accomplish on the cross had to do with the sacrificial laws, everything that had to do with animal sacrifice, the temple stuff, all the stuff that pertained to that. Jesus came to completely accomplish. That is done with. We don't need to do any more animal sacrifices. But the law is still good. The law is still pure. The law is still holy. Paul reminds us of that in Romans. So therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So, delighting in his law, like David says in Psalm 1, means that it is something that you greatly enjoy. It's your pleasure. It's your fun. So that's what makes you that man. That man. See, so number one, there's the associations, so the people you associate with. And number two, there's what you run to, what delights you in your daily life. That is what is going to make you into that man. So even if you can't be Batman, you can be that man. And in a world that desperately needs inspiration and heroics, that man is the way to go. Because, like I said earlier, you're not going to become a billionaire. Chances are, if you do, good for you, by the way, huh? If you do, good for you. But 99% of us will probably not, maybe more than that, will probably not get there. And it's funny because I was having a little conversation before I did that live with Jason today. He sees me with my Batman t-shirts, and he says, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to do a live on Batman that has to do with Batman a little bit." I said, "I'm going to teach people how to become that man." And he goes like, "That man can't be Batman." I said, "Yes, he can. And here's why. See, Batman's always had this epic, long struggle with the Joker, right? And for some reason, he just can't get himself to kill him. And that's another story altogether. That's comic books, comic books. But I said, think about it. That man would have just driven out all the demons that are driving the Joker insane, and all of a sudden the Joker would be free of his demons, and he wouldn't do any more of his harm towards people. It would be over. Why? Because that man trumps Batman. And you can meditate on that all you want. It's pretty good stuff. Anyway, I hope that this top nugget, this amusing top nugget, was inspirational to you. If it was, make sure you share it with your friends, and I will see you next time for another top nugget. I'm just going to post that little Batman clip as we finish and then end with the conclusion. God bless you guys. See you next time. Oh, make sure you pop up on Monday for my 7:30 Eastern time Bible study. We're going to continue in the book of Matthew chapter 4 this time.
What are you? I'm Batman.